blue goblin, specifically, as may be understood from Cabal's mutterings, a Germanic form known as kobold, had acted as a guardian of sorts for an unusual library. Where most libraries are content to sit by or near a road, this one had occupied a pocket existence of its own, slotted neatly between the world of men and the world of the fae. It was an extensive and useful library, but it did not encourage lending or even browsing. After a few bruising encounters with heavy volumes flung at him from shelf tops, Cabal had discovered the book he sought and made a hasty but victorious retreat. His victory lasted exactly until the moment he had had the time and leisure finally to examine the looted book and found that it had unaccountably become a small manual on the subject of waterproofing flat roofs. He belatedly thought of the fae's ability to alter appearances, and then he thought of a kobold vivisection, which cheered him up a little. So absorbed in his writing and muttering was he that the pebble that bounced off the window failed to draw his attention. The second, thrown vigorously enough to threaten the glass, succeeded. Cabal sighed, put down his pen, took up his revolver and went to the window. Given that it was pebbles rather than bricks, and given that nobody who lived within 10 miles would be so stupid as to irritate Cabal, who was not only a necromancer but, in the vernacular, an utter bastard, it seemed likely that the thrower was a child on a dare. Cabal intended to shoot to miss, albeit narrowly. He was therefore surprised when he saw 3 soberly dressed men standing on the other side of the garden gate. One looked like an undertaker, and Cabal, who had had a similar experience once before, checked his pulse, just to be sure. Pleased to find he wasn't dead again, he went to the front door. The 3 men, who had been watching the house with polite, if slightly distant attention, now turned it upon Johannes Cabal. They saw a clean-shaven man with short blonde hair, physically in his late 20s, though he carried an air of cynicism and worldliness that would have seemed premature in a man twice his age. They saw his black trousers, black waistcoat, thin black cravat, white shirt, tartan slippers, and they saw his enormous handgun. The last time Cabal had been to the gunsmith's in town to buy more cartridges for it, the man behind the counter had told him that the pistol, a Webley .577 Boxer, was guaranteed to stop a charging savage, according to the literature. Cabal had replied he didn't know about that, but it could stop a deep one with its dander up, and that was good enough for him. The man behind the counter had considered this, and then talked about the weather. It was, in short, a fierce and unfriendly gun, and its very appearance was usually enough to cause nervous shuffling among spectators. The 3 men, however, seemed no more put out by it than by Cabal's slippers, and those hadn't caused any obvious consternation either. Cabal considered. He did not encourage visitors. He had no colleagues per se. He had no friends, few acquaintances, and his family were all either dead or had disowned him, or were dead and had disowned him. Occasionally, other necromancers turned up to try to steal his researches, in much the same way that he tried to steal theirs, or assorted self-elected paragons of virtue arrived to slay him as if he were a dragon. He was not a dragon. He was a much better shot than most dragons, and the paragon's last sight was of the fierce and unfriendly Webley .577 Boxer, and Cabal's irked face sighting over the wide muzzle at them. The 3 men seemed to fit none of the categories. "Who are you?" asked Cabal. "What do you want?" One of the party, a short, middle-aged man with receding hair, snowy mutton chops, and the open, sanguine air of a defrocked priest, spoke up. "We wish to make you a proposal, Herr Cabal." "A proposal?" Cabal pushed his blue glass spectacles back up his nose and regarded the trio suspiciously. "What sort of proposal?" "That," interrupted the tall man in the top hat, who looked like an undertaker, "is better discussed in private." He pursed lips that looked well used to it. "Our immediate concern is to reach your front door." "My front? Oh." Cabal understood and laughed.